Good Monday morning, everyone. It's Dan Bossy joined with Ben Buckner here. We're looking at grain markets this morning and seeing some pressure everywhere. Of course, a lot of that pressure started with favorable planting conditions. At Ag Resource, we're looking for corn seeding to be somewhere between 24 and 26% complete today. Soybean seeding's nearing 20%. That's at or near the 5-year average. And so that was a little bearish as we went into the day. And then as we came forward, we also saw the United States and China unable to at least come together, and different media responses from the president, secretary treasurer, and even Rollins, USDA secretary Rollins. So all of that blending up to a lack of no confidence. Markets dislike confusion, and that's really what's been going on in terms of U.S. and China, which was something that was talked about fondly late last week. Ben, what do you think here this morning?
Yeah, likewise. It's kind of, we've seen the tariffs the U.S. has placed on China as being unsustainable, which I think we agree with that. So it's step two. We got to get to the negotiation phase, some kind of high-level talks, and I think just the lack of concrete evidence that anything is happening. We've kind of seen the headlines for the past 3 to 5 days. You see here, it's still the kind of dominant headline today. It's up to China to de-escalate. Are we having phone calls at all, or are we not? And China's kind of said the opposite. Again, this has been a couple of days now, but that's still happening, I think, is concerning, because again, we're kind of waiting on what's step two in this whole trade policy change and negotiation process. And I think, to your point too, this morning at least, it's kind of hard to separate a lack of negotiation progress, which we think is the case, with just pretty good U.S. weather. So we're kind of checking off a lot of boxes in terms of new crop production potential. You're going to see in some of our research this week that if Mother Nature cooperates, again, the path to building corn and soybean stocks worldwide does get pretty easy. So that's, I think, what we're focusing on. This shows you rainfall in the U.S. rain gauge based over the last 72 hours. And we saw some kind of welcomed rain in the Texas Panhandle, but not a lot of rainfall in the plains or Midwest. So I think it's completely dry in enough places that we're going to see pretty active progress reported today, and then probably again next Monday as well, people being able to work around some regional rainfall. Brazil too, it's kind of the last week we'll be focusing on Brazil, but it is still raining, at least light to moderate amounts there. So the monsoon's going to end, of course, but it's going to be pretty timely. Brazil, on balance, we think is probably building corn yield potential and export potential. And then lastly, I think we've got more rain coming back to the eastern Midwest. So we're just kind of solving drought here. We're solving drought there. This rain will occur after a lot of crops are planted. A lot of heavy rain in southern plains, where we think on balance is good. And you got warmth. So we're going to have probably normal to above normal planting progress coming, warmth to heat in some places. Emergence is going to be right on time. So we've got this kind of speedy begin to the new crop growing season, at least in the U.S. So again, we're looking for new threats. We all know seasonal trends start to transition about the middle or end of May, and so that runway is getting smaller. And U.S. weather today looks good. I think is equally important as trade policy issues.
Well, Ben, I would agree with you on all of those points. One of the Chinese cabinet members indicated that they can do without U.S. farm goods and U.S. energy, and they're preparing their society for that. So again, this amplification, if you will, of threats, depending on which side of the Pacific you're lying, is what the grain markets don't like, and that's why we're down here today. Headlines will rule this session. Our view going forward is that probably by midweek we form some kind of bottom, and we'll start to maybe crawl out of this as we get some other trade announcements later in the week to other Southeast Asian destinations where we can cut deals. But today it looks down and dirty, and that's kind of the market. Though, again, I'm not sure I'd be selling wheat here. Corn and soybeans may have more downside, but the wheat market, as we look at it, with some cold temperatures possible across the Black Sea and some freezing temperatures, is something I'd shy away from at least selling at the moment. Any other closing comments, Ben?
I think it's all well said. It's a lot of growing season left. The entire growing season is left. We'll cross that bridge in 45 days. But today there's just not a lot of fuel, so we don't expect much in the way of recoveries. So that's the beginning and end.
Bulls need to eat every day, and there's just nothing for the Bulls that on Monday, at least starting this week. Have a great trading day, and get some seed in the ground if you're a farmer. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Be well, and we'll be back on Tuesday.